The monsoon had arrived early in Chandangarh, a sleepy village nestled deep within the emerald folds of the Western Ghats. Rain lashed against the ancient stone walls of the houses, turning the narrow lanes into gurgling streams. The air hung heavy with the scent of wet earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. For generations, the villagers had whispered tales about the old well at the edge of the forest. They called it Rakshasa Kua, the demon's well. It was said that anyone who dared to peer into its depths after nightfall would be met with not their own reflection, but the terrifying visage of a malevolent spirit. Children were warned to stay away, their imaginations painting vivid pictures of shadowy figures and chilling whispers emanating from its moss-covered stones. 28-year-old Anya, a freelance documentary filmmaker known for her penchant for the paranormal, had arrived in Chandangarh with her small crew. Rohan, her pragmatic sound engineer, and Priya, her ever-enthusiastic camera operator. Anya had stumbled upon the local legends during her research and felt an irresistible pull towards the Rakshasa Kua. She wasn't a believer in ghosts, but she was a believer in stories, and the fear that clung to this well was palpable. Their first few days were spent documenting the village life, capturing the beauty of the rain-soaked landscape and the quiet resilience of its people. But Anya's focus kept drifting back to the well. It stood isolated, a dark maw in the lush greenery, its silence more unnerving than any scream. One evening, as the last rays of the sun bled across the horizon, painting the clouds in hues of blood orange and deep violet, Anya decided to visit the well. Rohan and Priya exchanged uneasy glances but followed her nonetheless. The path leading to the well was overgrown, the air thick with the buzzing of unseen insects. As they approached, an unnatural chill permeated the air, even with the lingering humidity. The well was wider than Anya had imagined, its stone rim slick with moss and age. The water within was dark, reflecting the fading light like a bottomless abyss. A low, almost imperceptible hum seemed to emanate from its depths, a vibration that tickled the skin. "Are you sure about this, Anya?" Rohan's voice was barely above a whisper. Anya, her heart pounding with a strange mix of apprehension and excitement, nodded. "Just a look. We don't have to do anything drastic tonight." Priya set up her camera, its red recording light, a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness. Anya cautiously approached the edge and peered in. At first, she saw only the distorted reflection of the twilight sky. Then, as her eyes adjusted, she thought she saw something else, a fleeting shadow, a ripple that wasn't caused by the wind. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the trees, extinguishing their portable lamp. They were plunged into darkness, the only sound the relentless drumming of the rain on the surrounding leaves. A collective gasp escaped their lips. "Did you see that?" Priya's voice trembled. "See what?" Rohan's hand instinctively reached for Anya's arm. In the water, it looked like a face. Anya strained her eyes, but the darkness was absolute. Then they heard it. A faint whisper carried on the wind. It sounded like a woman's voice, laced with sorrow and an unbearable longing. "Did you hear that?" Anya whispered back, her blood running cold. Rohan shook his head, his face pale in the faint starlight that managed to pierce the clouds. "Just the wind." But Priya insisted. No, it was a voice. It said my name. Fear, sharp and primal, gripped Anya. Priya's claim was unsettling. How could a whisper in the wind sound so distinct, so personal? They decided to retreat, the oppressive atmosphere of the well suddenly unbearable. Back at their guest house, the experience weighed heavily on them. Priya was visibly shaken, convinced that the well had somehow called out to her. Rohan tried to rationalize it, blaming it on nerves and the strange acoustics of the place. Anya, however, couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something truly inexplicable. Over the next few days, Anya delved deeper into the history of Chandangarh and the legend of the Rakshasa Kua. She spoke to the village elders, their faces etched with a lifetime of stories and superstitions. They spoke of a tragic love story centuries ago, of a young woman who was betrayed and thrown into the well, her spirit forever bound to its depths. They said her sorrowful whispers could sometimes be heard on moonless nights, a warning to those who strayed too close. One old woman, her eyes clouded with age, told Anya a particularly chilling detail. "The well doesn't just show you a demon," she rasped, her voice barely audible. "It shows you your deepest fear. And sometimes it takes it." Anya dismissed it as folklore, yet the old woman's words lingered in her mind. What was Priya's deepest fear? And why would the well call out her name? Driven by a need to understand, Anya decided to return to the well, this time during the day. The sunlight cast a different light on the place, stripping away some of its ominous aura. But the well itself remained dark and impenetrable. As Priya set up her camera to film the well in daylight, she suddenly froze, her eyes wide with terror. She pointed a trembling finger towards the stone rim. Carved into the moss-covered surface, almost hidden from view, were a series of symbols. They were ancient, unfamiliar, and undeniably unsettling. Anya carefully traced the symbols with her fingers. They felt cold, almost alive. She recognized one of them. It was an ancient symbol associated with binding rituals, a practice long forgotten in these parts. "Rohan, get a picture of these," Anya said, her voice tight with a growing sense of dread. As Rohan zoomed in with his camera, he noticed something else etched beneath the moss. Faint scratch marks, as if someone had desperately tried to claw their way out of the well. The air around them grew heavy again, the bird song in the surrounding forest abruptly ceasing. A low growl, guttural and menacing, seemed to rise from the depths of the well. This time, they all heard it. They backed away slowly, their initial curiosity replaced by a chilling certainty. The Rakshasa Kua was more than just a legend. Something resided within it, something dark and powerful. Back at the guest house, Anya researched the symbols. With the help of an online database of ancient scripts, she finally found a match. They belonged to a forgotten cult that practiced dark magic and human sacrifice centuries ago. The well, it seemed, was not just a place of tragedy, but a site of unspeakable horror. That night, Priya started experiencing vivid nightmares. She would wake up screaming, her eyes wide with terror, claiming she saw shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her room, whispering her name. Rohan tried to comfort her, but even his pragmatic demeanor was starting to crack under the strain of the unsettling events. Anya knew they had stumbled upon something dangerous, something that might be more than they could handle. But the filmmaker in her, the storyteller, couldn't walk away. She felt compelled to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. Their investigation led them to an abandoned temple deep within the forest, a place the villagers avoided like the plague. Inside, amidst crumbling idols and decaying murals, they found more of the strange symbols, along with disturbing depictions of rituals performed near a well. One mural showed a young woman being thrown into the darkness, her face contorted in terror. As Anya pieced together the fragments of history, a horrifying picture began to emerge. The well was not just a repository of sorrow, it was a conduit, a place where dark energy had been concentrated through centuries of fear and ritualistic sacrifice. The spirit trapped within was not just a ghost, it was something far more malevolent, something that could reach out and touch the living. The suspense thickened with each passing hour. Strange occurrences plagued them. Equipment malfunctioned inexplicably. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision. They would hear faint whispers even when they were far from the well. Priya's condition worsened, her fear becoming a tangible entity that filled the guest house. One evening, as a violent thunderstorm raged outside, Priya collapsed. Her skin was ice cold, her breathing shallow. A strange mark had appeared on her arm, a faint, swirling symbol that matched the ones on the well. Panic set in. Rohan desperately tried to revive her, but it was no use. Anya felt a cold dread wash over her. The old woman's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes it takes it. Had the well taken Priya? Desperate, Anya remembered another fragment of the old woman's tale. She had mentioned a hidden spring nearby, said to possess healing properties, blessed by a benevolent spirit to counter the darkness of the well. It was a long shot, a whisper of hope in the face of overwhelming fear, but Anya was willing to try anything. Leaving Rohan to watch over Priya's lifeless form, Anya ventured out into the storm. The forest was a maelstrom of wind and rain, the darkness punctuated by flashes of lightning that illuminated the gnarled trees like skeletal fingers. The path to the spring was treacherous, the ground slippery and uneven. Fear gnawed at her, the whispers of the well seeming to follow her through the storm. After what felt like an eternity, she found it, a small, hidden grotto, the air around it strangely calm. A gentle stream of water trickled from a rock face into a small pool, the water shimmering with an ethereal glow. With trembling hands, Anya cupped the water and drank. A feeling of warmth spread through her, a sense of peace that was alien in the oppressive atmosphere of Chandangarh. She filled her water bottle and raced back to the guest house, the storm seeming to subside slightly as she ran. Rohan was weeping over Priya's still body. Hope flickered within Anya as she gently sprinkled the water on Priya's face. Nothing happened. Despair threatened to engulf her. She had believed in a fairy tale, a foolish legend, Just as she was about to give up, Priya gasped. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked at Anya, confusion clouding her gaze. The strange mark on her arm began to fade, the swirling lines dissolving into nothingness. Priya was alive. Priya's wide, terrified eyes were fixed on something beyond Anya's shoulder. Anya whipped around, her heart hammering against her ribs. The room was still, the only sound, the rhythmic drumming of the rain against the guest house roof. Rohan looked equally bewildered. "What is it, Priya? What do you see?" Anya's voice was a strained whisper. Priya's breath hitched. She tried to speak again, her gaze unwavering, a silent scream trapped in her throat. Then, slowly, her eyes unfocused, the terror receding, replaced by confusion. I don't know," she murmured, her voice weak. "For a moment, I thought I saw something, a shadow, tall and gaunt by the window." Rohan rushed to the window, peering out into the rain-swept darkness. "There's nothing there, Priya. Just the storm." But Anya felt a prickle of unease. Priya's terror had been too real, too visceral to be a mere hallucination. The well, or whatever resided within it, clearly wasn't finished with them. The following day, an unnatural stillness hung over Chandangarh. The rain had stopped, but the air remained heavy and oppressive. The villagers, sensing the dark cloud that had settled over the outsiders, kept their distance, their eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. Anya was determined to understand what had happened to Priya and what that fleeting shadow represented. She returned to the old woman who had spoken of the healing spring. The woman, whose name was Nani, looked at Anya with knowing eyes. "The Rakshasa Kua does not relinquish its hold easily, child," she said, her voice rasping. "The spring can heal the body, but the darkness, it clings to the soul. The shadow you saw, it is a part of what Priya faced. It will try to reclaim her." Nani then told them more about the spring. It was said to have originated from a single tear of a benevolent goddess, shed for the suffering of the innocent souls claimed by the well. The water held a pure, life-affirming energy, a direct counter to the malevolent force of the Rakshasa Kua. "But the spring's power is strongest at its source," Nani explained. "And there grows a flower bathed in the goddess's light. It blooms only rarely, and its petals hold the purest essence of healing and protection." Anya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The water from the spring had saved Priya's life, but it was clear that a deeper healing was needed. They had to find this flower. Their search led them deeper into the forest, following Nani's cryptic directions. The terrain grew increasingly treacherous, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant caw of crows. Rohan, ever the skeptic, couldn't shake off his unease. "Are we really chasing a mythical flower, Anya? Isn't there a more logical explanation for all this?" "Logic hasn't gotten us very far, Rohan," Anya retorted, her gaze fixed on the dense undergrowth. "We saw what happened to Priya. We felt the darkness of that well. This flower might be our only hope." Days turned into nights as they navigated the labyrinthine forest. Priya, though physically recovered, remained withdrawn, haunted by the memory of the shadow. The strange occurrences continued, albeit subtly. A sudden drop in temperature, the feeling of being watched, faint whispers that seemed to slither into their minds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they found it. Hidden within a small clearing, bathed in a soft ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the earth itself, was the spring. And beside it, a single flower bloomed. Its petals were a luminous white, radiating a gentle warmth. It looked otherworldly, untouched by the surrounding wilderness. As Anya reached for the flower, the air around them crackled with energy. The shadows in the clearing seemed to deepen, and the faint whispers intensified, swirling around them like angry spirits. "Don't touch it," Priya cried out, her eyes wide with fear. "I see them. They don't want us to take it." Anya could now sense them too, a presence, cold and malevolent, trying to push them back. It felt like the oppressive atmosphere of the well, amplified. Despite his fear, Rohan stood his ground. "We've come this far. We're not turning back now." Anya carefully plucked the flower. As her fingers brushed against its delicate petals, a surge of pure energy flowed through her, chasing away the coldness. The whispers receded, the shadows flickered and vanished. A sense of profound peace settled over the clearing. They rushed back to the guest house, the luminous flower held carefully in Anya's hands. Priya seemed to sense its power, her anxiety visibly lessening. Back in their room, Anya gently steeped the flower in warm water. creating a fragrant infusion. As Priya drank it, a soft glow enveloped her. The lingering fear in her eyes began to fade, replaced by a sense of calm and resilience. The strange mark on her arm, which had briefly reappeared as a faint shadow, completely vanished. But they knew their ordeal wasn't over. The source of the darkness, the Rakshasa Kua, still remained. The flower had healed Priya, but the well continued to be a threat, a festering wound in the heart of Chandangarh. Anya realized that they couldn't just leave. They had witnessed the power of the well, the fear it instilled, and the potential for tragedy it held. They had to do something to break its hold on the village. Armed with the knowledge of the spring and the power of the blessed flower, Anya, Rohan, and a now rejuvenated Priya returned to the Rakshasa Kua. This time, they weren't driven by curiosity, but by a sense of purpose. The well seemed to sense their intent. The air around it was thick, with a palpable malice. The whispers were louder now, no longer sorrowful but filled with rage. Shadows writhed at the edges of their vision, and the ground seemed to vibrate with a dark energy. As Anya approached the well, holding the remaining petals of the blessed flower, the water within began to churn. A dark shape began to coalesce beneath the surface. The gaunt, shadowy figure Priya had briefly seen. Its eyes glowed with malevolent intent, and a chilling growl echoed from its depths. Fear threatened to overwhelm them, but Anya held her ground. She remembered Nani's words. The well fed on fear. They had to be stronger. Taking a deep breath, Anya scattered the petals of the blessed flower into the dark water. As the luminous petals touched the surface, a ripple of pure light spread across the well. The churning water calmed. The shadowy figure recoiled, hissing like a creature burned by holy fire. A blinding light erupted from the depths of the well, followed by a deafening silence. When the light subsided, the water in the well was no longer dark and menacing. It was clear, reflecting the sky above like a tranquil mirror. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. The whispers were gone. The shadows had vanished. The Rakshasa Kua was silent. The villagers, who had cautiously approached, watched in awe as the transformation unfolded. A collective sigh of relief swept through them. The curse that had haunted their village for generations seemed to have finally been broken. Priya felt a deep sense of release, the lingering fear finally dissipating. Rohan, his skepticism replaced by wonder, could only shake his head in disbelief. As they prepared to leave Chandangarh, Nani approached them, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You have brought peace back to our village," she said. "The goddess has answered our prayers through you." Anya knew it wasn't just them. It was the power of belief, the resilience of hope, and the unexpected miracle of the blessed flower that had banished the darkness. They had come seeking a story, but they had become part of one, a terrifying tale with a miraculous end. As they drove away, leaving the now serene village behind, Anya glanced back at the edge of the forest. The old well stood silent, bathed in the warm sunlight. It was no longer a place of fear, but a reminder that even in the darkest of places, a glimmer of hope, a touch of the divine, could bloom.